Let me go straight to the context. The way we live, the way we eat, the way we spend money, the way we dress, and the way we spend time keeps on changing almost every 2 years, 3 years, 5 years as we grow older. But that becomes a trend. Now that trend captures multiple things. Identifying those trends and trying to convert them into opportunities is a big challenge, and which we generally tend to miss. There are some trends which are of short-term nature. They are mini trends. They will disappear after some time. There are really mega trends which last very long. It could last for years. It could last for decades. Now, some of these trends could be positive. Some could be negative. Some trends really don't translate really. It might be good for the economy. It might be good for the country, but it may not translate into good profits. It may not translate into investments. But here we will try and focus on those that benefit the economy, benefit the people, and therefore the investment. So let me toss to the experts straight away. Open-ended question. One of you can start. What do you think are the key mega trends that we are witnessing now?
Hey, I think, like you said, many things are changing. So you get those large opportunities which are present today. A lot of them, if you ignore the shorter term trends, I think a lot of them are maybe it will last for 10, 15, 20 years. So let us take the most simplest of those is the demographics piece. So it's well understood and known that India is a country of young people. It's actually over-marketed in that context. But one trend is India also has the largest or the second largest cohort of 50 plus people. And 50 plus, I think most of us in the room here, a lot of people in the room here, I think is a sizable market. So we never say India is a country of old people, right? But we say Germany is a country of old people. So Germany has just 3.7 crore people over the age of 50. Today we have about 30 crore people over the age. And this will be 40. And this is the fastest growing cohort because the younger people are growing at 1.2, 1.3%. This is growing at 3.5%, 4% because of longevity and things like that. And all of this needs servicing, support, whether it is, leave aside the medical side of it as well, but several other services required to take care of this kind of a large population. This leads into the retirement opportunity. This leads into many, many such opportunities which are there. And this is less today in a way. It's not at top of the mind anyway today, which can possibly be one of the biggest surprises you can find. The rest of the others, manufacturing, for example, for the first time in the last 20, 30 years, we are seeing something really happening to the scale. We think, we would have always wanted to happen in India. So if manufacturing doesn't take off this time around for some challenge somewhere, I don't think we will possibly miss this big opportunity again. So that's one very, very large space and trend available because at this scale, we can't live by imports. That's again happening.
So I will take off from where he can toss the question. Demographic dividend, that dividend is something which could come in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So the focus is on consumption, therefore, consumption of services, housing, cars, mobile phones, or the case may be. So we have a situation where demand creates its own supply. So how do you look at these trends and let's say focus sharper on key trends that we need to latch on?
Usual people like us started to worry about current account deficit and trade deficit and various things. So what we ignored was that there was so much of global capability centers that were created. So we went and asked a few. So what happened is after around July, August, September, we saw services export booming. So this services export boom completely kind of resolved the current account deficit. That if you see the recent data of current account deficit, the whole issue has almost disappeared, even though oil was high.
Right.
And what happens to all this is all these people, they are all well employed. So they cause their own consumption and that gives their own benefits. So this is the side effect of demographics. Why did that happen? If you ask me, it is because engineering colleges got set up way back in 90s. when those engineering colleges were set up, we ourselves didn't know whether all the people who came out of engineering colleges will get jobs. But that caused its own positive setup. After the IT boom of 2000, IT boom resulted in an outsourcing boom. Then it became easier to actually outsource. Then now with Zoom, Team, this, that, it became very easy to do things. So we ourselves are not sometimes able to judge. So sometimes innovations need not make money. But the social good of payments in India is so phenomenal that you can't measure it in the form of the fact that people have not made money out of payments. Has there been an innovation? Certainly. Has India gained out of it? Yes. Have we created PE-based startups in payment? Answer is
yeah, absolutely. In fact, so technology, income and technology and policy, of course, all three go together in creating, let's say, incomes for the poorest of the poor. UPI, as you said, the payment system, it's enabled the smallest of the vendor to earn more than what they used to, let's say, 10 years back. Mere paas chutta nahi hai, so they would rather. So that is translating into some kind of income level. Now, the next question then is, for that class of income class of people, they are moving up gradually, and the payment system is helping them move up faster, and technology is helping them realize their skills. You can sit here and say, look, if there is a simple problem, I will guide you, you can solve that problem, like as in yoga. So how do we harness that to the next level?
Interestingly, the whole middle India or that scale of India, I think it's gradually every last 20 years, we have seen some percentage always moving towards better income levels. What technology has done is that, it's actually allowed all of these services, all of these segments of the market to offer services across the board. But the limitations have reduced, the friction has reduced. Collection, the biggest problem in this country was collecting money after offering a service. So that has eased off because of timing speed.
We all know that housing is a huge opportunity, and a house creates demand for several things. But the focus and the concentration is in few geographies, the NCR region in the north, the Mumbai region here, and the Bangalore region. Outside of that, you can't think of really making money there. So a mega trend should also help you make investment opportunity, but everything is concentrated in 3 regions. Your thoughts?
I think this was correct 10 years back.
Okay.
I think there are big changes underlying which we are unable to fathom today, right? When we look at data trends which are there, proxy data of, where vehicles are being sold, or where lot of spaces are appearing. For example, the state of you, kind of growth it has seen in the last several years has been stunning. So I think it's now become more a bottom-up kind of a country in the context that maybe you have 100 cities functioning well and growing rapidly versus earlier, 10 years back, which used to be just these 3-4 cities which account. It may still be that these cities account for a large proportion of it, but I think growth is in, the second tier, third tier cities which are exploding rapidly. For example, recently I was in Hyderabad, and every time you go, it's completely new landscape on the new side of the city. Just you're seeing as if the best of the best office infrastructure being built, largest of companies each company having 15,000 people, many such companies there. And things are changing, thanks to the IT, thanks to everything. So I think it's no longer the narrow India which used to be, and hence, always used to struggle wherever there was some growth. We always had those bottlenecks and problems. I think it's now spreading out.
It's also because data is not clearly available from usage. But the other trend that I've seen, or more anecdotal, I would say, I don't know whether it's a trend, the premium housing is selling like A1 sold out. A1 sold out. I can take a few examples. DNF is a classic example of A1 got sold out. Recently, Max Ventures, 7 crore to 13 crores was the kind of, budget for a house. And just a year back, Prestige in Bangalore, they came up with a 180-acre large mega house. The day after it opened, everything was sold out. Now, that's yet another trend happening where the aspiration level is rising. But then there is a clear divide there.
No, I think without affordable housing going up, it's not a mega trend. You're going to construct 1 lakh houses of people who consume at the prices you talked about. Then it's not a mega trend, then it's a micro trend. So I would say
But
that.
money is in micro trend.
that-
From investors' point of
So I think it's going to happen. In fact, if you see on the lending side,
view.
I see so many players who come to me and Sailesh and say we're starting an affordable housing finance company. So it would be very surprising that, it's happening. What you read in the newspapers, of course, see what attracts media attention is not houses which sell for 20 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
But I believe if I look at the number of players who come to us in the mutual fund industry and talk about affordable housing, I believe that there's a lot of activity happening. And in between now, there was a lot of subsidy also given. I don't know whether the subsidy is still on for affordable housing, but there was a subsidy given by the government that had given a huge fillip to affordable housing. Actually, about 3-4 years back, I'm not very sure whether that continues at this point of time. And that subsidy actually had given a huge fillip to affordable housing about 4-5 years back. In between, stamp duty stoppage had also done. So all those things, so I don't think it is what is getting reported, what you're talking about is one trend, but it is a broad-based trend. And as Sailesh pointed out, you may be looking at a few cities, but there is fair amount of real estate activity across. And the best indicator for that is cement demand. If you look at cement demand in the first quarter of this year, in April to June, it has been extremely buoyant. And it has been extremely buoyant across the country. So which is a sign that construction activity has been moving across the country. And it is not a price-based move. It is a volume-based move. So I believe that there is a clear situation where that construction activity is moving across the country. And it is not localized to Gurgaon or Noida or Bombay.
We'll have houses. We will need electricity. We will need to run ACs, the heaters, and as we progress. So energy is going to be very critical. And of course, the mobility for the cars we need. We have plenty of sun, right? We have plenty of wind. So there is always that opportunity of renewables. Is that going to be a extraordinary mega trend? See, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, would refineries be out of my portfolio?
Hey, it's happening as we speak. Like in the previous session, it was said, Europe tried to adapt it to a fairly early in the cycle, either gas or even solar. They all set up at extremely high price. My belief in any mega trend, it's that economics of that business have to start happening. There'll be support, external support and things like that. But when the economics are right, today solar power technically is cheaper. You can create it in shorter cycles. You don't have the challenges of the past. You don't have environmental challenges beyond, what we've seen before, not to that extent. And the pricing is right. You can supply it to 2.5 or maybe 3 rupees at least during the day. When that happens, nothing can stop that trend from accelerating. So everything is a tipping point. So the tipping point for mobile in terms of pricing, then, it's already 80, 100 crore people having that. So I think that has happened for solar. Then there is this pressure. In addition to that, there is this climate change effort globally to make it happen, less carbon everywhere. And that is feeding a lot of capital into this. The economics are right. There is a need to do it. There is a lot of commitment globally to do it. Leaders see it as what they would want to leave as a legacy to the world. I think there's nothing, in all these 5 things coming together, it's a trend which should, in my opinion, continue. And interestingly, the amount of capital that goes into it is generally 2-3 times the amount of capital that goes into traditional coal plants for the same amount of power.
Right.
So that again means large investment and modernization everywhere. So I think in all probability, this is a trend we will possibly see accelerating rather than slowing down.
So what kind of investments that would dot the portfolios, let's say, over the next 10 years? Now, for example, let me go back, in the late 70s and early 80s, nobody would have thought about HDFC being in my portfolio or your portfolio. Now see how it's changed over the last 45. for the next 10, 15 years, what will be the key? It might be a very small company, or it may be a small cap, for example. It could be a smart meter company, for instance, that's now coming up. So what is it that will change, and what will it, that as some of the best fund managers in this country, which you will buy and say, I'll keep it for you.
And just to add to what Sailesh said, when the solar came up, we used to think, what will you do about power demand at this time of the day? Solar is not going to supply power at this time of the day. At point of time, the only thing was lithium. And lithium is not available in India. We used to worry a lot 3 years back. Actually, in my childhood, I used to go to a place because my grandmother used to stay. And there was a power plant called Kadambare Pump Storage Plant, which was a pump storage plant where, there was a height. And I knew that pump storage was used for peaking power. I never knew that pump storage could be done with much, not necessarily with a big height difference. But suddenly about a year back, what I realized is the government did superb work on this area and came up with a view that along with solar, you have to add pump storage. And if you do solar plus pump storage, you can solve the problem. You don't need lithium battery to the same extent.
Okay.
So frankly, this whole concept for 3 years, we spent worrying in our company, how will you handle power demand between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m.? Because battery costs are so high and India does not have lithium like Chile or Australia. But the problem is more or less getting reduced by this pump storage idea. And today the government is actually moving very, very fast on the pump storage. And if pump storage can be a solution, we would have a situation where we would have solar, we would have wind, and we would have pump storage as a solution. So to the question you asked, finally we are public market investors. We have to look after investors' return. If you'd asked me 10 years back, what was, the first time I got an iPad, I thought that telecom will be the best investment opportunity.
Exactly.
But what happened to telecom for the first 6 years? Telecom was the biggest negative return generator as a sector. So sometimes what happens is you and I think there's a beautiful innovation. For 6 years, telecom changed my life, both iPad and my mobile phone. But what was the equity market return for the first 6 years? Negative. It's only in the last 4 or 5 years I got the return. So I believe, sometimes innovation and stock market returns are not necessarily linked. The returns came from all the consumption stocks. But the returns didn't come from telecom. Whereas people who set up e-commerce websites, they made money. But the telecom companies, if you go back 10 years back, how many telecom companies are there? 2 or 3 who have succeeded. One is barely surviving. That is the reality of the situation.
Which is the case with aviation
as well. So sometimes what happens, we'll think of the innovation. Finally, who makes the money? Who survives? Who makes mega money?
Yeah.
These are all difficult things. And finally, we are managing public money. Yeah. If we are going to lose money for the investor, that person will take out money from us.
We are looking at future trends to come and things like existing underlying large trends which have already established businesses. We have this at the back of our mind that large companies cannot become larger. Only smaller companies can grow much faster and grow for longer periods of time or will catch up. I think some of the mid-sized businesses in India today themselves are very much capable to latch on to any of these larger trends which are available. So I think 80-90% of the winners can still come from companies who are already there, already existing, already profitable and have managements to capture some of these trends. And the chance or the risk of identifying trends for the next 10 years with smaller, early stage or venture capital kind of businesses, what's happening in that way.
Okay, one very important mega trend, my last question before I toss to the audience for question. One, I would call it a mega trend, maybe you are experts, is that a lot of people, a lot of investors are pouring money into small cap. So much so that small cap fund managers have to every now and then stop the flow. Now, that itself looks like a mega trend. thinking has changed. One of you could take that question and conclude this before we.
I define markets into 5 phases. I call it bust. Bust happened when Lehman happened, World Trade Center happened, okay, COVID happened. That's the best time to invest. If you have the guts to invest. The second is best. That is when there's no such crisis, but markets are basically in bad shape. That's the best time to invest. Third is boring. There's no problem, but not too much FII buying, not too much mutual fund buying. Fourth is boom. What's happening today in small cap and mid cap. What we've seen is in boom phase, if you have invested, you normally don't make money in the medium term. We have seen boom phases like 2006 to 8, 2017, all these phases, 1999. In these phases, you invest, you don't make money in the medium term. But the problem for people like us is near term, you may make money.
Yeah.
Because there were people who are negative in 2007 January. But 2007 to January to 2008 January, the market kept shooting up. So in the near term, market can go up as much as it wants to. And you are not capable of determining that. In boom market, you are capable. The medium term is the problem. Short term market may go up. And long term, India is a good structural story. And normally people don't hold till long term when they invest in a boom. That also. The last phase is the bubble phase.
Yes.
In the bubble phase, whoever invests will lose.
Are we in that phase?
We are in boom phase. We are in boom phase. In bubble phase, what happens? Market narrows. Then there'll be only few stocks which go up. So today we are in boom phase in small cap and mid cap. We are not in boom phase in large cap or multi cap or flexi cap. We are in boom phase in small cap and mid cap. So this is a tough task for us to explain to all the investors.
Your concluding remarks before I ask it.
Hey, these phases will come every 2 years, every 3 years. There's no respect for risk. And you see people just putting money based on what last 3 year returns are. Our basic thing is when 3-4 year returns are very good, you have to be extremely careful. That's what is happening today in, say, small cap where returns have been extremely good in the last 3-4 years. And today, this perception of large caps being, slow growth businesses, nobody wants to put it, or it's not fashionable, has made them attractive. So I think as a rational investors, some allocation changes in this kind of a framework would just allow us to sustain and capture wherever respective or relative value.
On that note, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.